Hi, this is Dave Pultorak from Pultorak and Associates, and I'm here to tell you today about the ITIL Personal Team and Leader Weekly Process Improvement Aid. Bottom line, it's a poster. You can download it from our website, www.pultorak.com. And what it has in it is a basic idea. We've done ITIL implementations since 1997. It's year 2010 now. What we found to be the most critical component of implementation is to make sure that there's thinking and acting and behavior change and results change at three levels: the organization as a whole, teams, and then individual contributors. We find that where real results get done, the individuals are actively getting things done, getting on with the work of IT service management, and so are teams. And that cascade at those three levels is important. Where we see things sort of not move as strongly as possible is where it's all effort or most effort is directed towards the organization as a whole. So there's a project team, they're doing all sorts of cool stuff, but they're not actually engaging or having an ask for individuals and teams. So that's why we developed this job aid. We found it to be very effective. This is an ITIL V2 version of the job aid. We also have an ITIL V3 version of the job aid. Let me walk you through it. The first thing is, if you look up here, is that it talks about what a process is. Think about what a process is. A lot of people, they get hung up on the activities in the process, and I think it's important to consider those. I think especially in a compliance environment, to make sure that the activities are actually what's done. But what really is important is the outcome, the aim. So a process is a set of activities directed towards an aim. You could argue, if you think about change management, that if you say, well, what's your change management process? If you've got 1,000 people or 5,000 people running around in IT and they're doing change management, if what they're doing is minimizing the business disruption of changes and knowing what changed, well, guess what? The sum of that activity that's directed towards the same is your change management process. If I take a snapshot of activity over a 24-hour period that's directed towards this, that, my friend, is your change management process. So if you want to improve a process, people need to get the process aim and get on with it. In other words, direct their activities towards that aim, taking action within their own circle of influence to make things better, and then where they need to ask for help, making those asks, assuming they'll get some of them and some of them they won't. So let's take a look at this this job aid here. Here's what we have. The idea here is that each week you'll review the process aims in ITIL. Let's go down here and look at this very quickly. So these are the process aims. What's good about this poster is we work hard to make sure that these are in plain English as possible, a listing, synthesizing the aims of each of these processes. So thinking about change management, again, it's about minimizing the business disruption of change, knowing what changed. I mean, if you can make that happen, you're doing change management and you're effective. It's really that end in mind that we're shooting for. So said another way, it's not enough that you filled out all the right paperwork, that you checked off the right boxes, and then your changes blew up or the business was disrupted. It's not enough that you did all the activities and all the deliverables specification. You need to achieve this outcome, right? So you look at those aims, and here are them. So you can do a quick scan of these. Let's go back to this job aid. What we do is we say, review those process aims, and then for the week, review any wins from last week and write them down. 1, 2, 3 simple ways you can communicate and celebrate. Quite often where ITIL or any kind of organizational change efforts fail is where there isn't enough celebration. You don't give shout-outs to people who did a great job. Hey, Joe really did a good job at making sure that change went well and there was good communication with the end user. Let me make sure I give a shout-out to him. The next thing you do is to ask yourself, and this is what an individual does, right? Ask yourself, what's 1, 2, 3 simple things that I can do this week within my circle of influence? In other words, I don't need to ask anybody for anything, towards bettering and enacting that process aim. Write down some of those action items. So for example, if I'm the guy who moves PCs from one building to another or delivers your PC, hey, I can go to the print shop and get a sticky notes made up that say, hey, my name's Dave, I moved your PC from here to there, you know, this is what changed. If you have a question, just call me. That's minimizing the business disruption of change. So that's a very key point. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the cracks, which I think a lot of people think is not the activities of change management, is not the change management process, which to me is really the meat of the change management process. When we got started in this whole service management space, the first book, this idea of service management, Moments of Truth, right, was about making moments of truth, small half percent, small moments in time, not end-to-end processes, but those small moments of truth work well. And in the end, if we made those work well, everything would work well. The idea was with SAS Airlines, and you'll see that, just make my trip into my seat from the check-in as comfortable as possible. Once I'm on board, make sure I'm as comfortable as possible. Those little, when the seatbelt sign comes on, when you have turbulence, handling those moments of truth well. Well, that's what we're talking about here. That as much as, if not more so to me, personally, is your change management process, is your incident management process, the accumulation of those moments of truth as the activities that are laid down in a process diagram that people are to follow for compliance, etc. What we really want to make sure is that people are getting it and getting on with it. And in the compliance environment, we also want to make sure that getting on with it matches what we've written down and set, so we can show evidence that we know what we're doing, we're saying what we're doing, and that we're doing what we said we'd do. But it's also important that it's about the spirit and not just the letter, achieving that. Okay, so you go back here and say, what's the 1, 2, 3 things I can do this week? You write them down and you do them. Just imagine, think about organizations that are running ITIL change efforts, ITIL implementation efforts, that everything's at the organizational level only. If you have a project team, they're doing it all. Just imagine if instead you had 1,000 things a day that people were doing, 1, 2, 3 simple things to improve the change management of the organization. That's like the bottom slice of bread in a sandwich to me. You think about the individual contributor. If you don't have a bottom slice of bread on a sandwich, the thing falls apart. This holds it all together, supports it all. Yes, you need organizational level effort, but the individual effort is absolutely crucial. Then you want to take action during the week, but before you do that, you want to say, well, okay, I've done what I can do. I've written down a couple of actions based on my circle of influence. What can I ask for to make things better? I'm going to assume that I won't get some of them. I'll look down here at change management and say, what we really need is a secure area for hardware. That's really, stuff starting to grow legs and walk. That's a problem for us. But some of the things you'll get, some of the things you won't. But you ask, and the idea is, I'm doing what I can. I'm celebrating good things in the organization, and I'm asking for what I need to do even better, and then I'm taking some action. Hey, that's all we can ask, and that's a lot, and it's great. So similarly here, we have the team leader. So if you own a team, what do? Well, you can do this personal thing yourself, but also what you want to do is review these process aims, and then you should look at the shout-outs that people had and further celebrate those. Find ways to reward those. So you should be seeing some of this stuff from your team, making sure it's going across the bow. When do people hear about IT when something goes wrong? So the general rule of thumb is for every negative thing that's said, you got to shoot 3 positive sound bites across the bow about what you did get right? And this is your source of them, so that's very important. Next thing here, review individual and team tasks. So your team saying, hey, to do even better, I could do this. You want to make sure that you can see if you can fulfill any of those or help those. So that's number 4. Number 3 here is if you did give some of them, make sure you're showing people that you're listening, you're helping, and giving those things. And the general idea, as a team, take action and communicate results. So the idea here is, remember the 3 layers. First, you have up top, you have the organization as a whole, the project team driving at organizational level all these, the assessment, the training, the improvements, the design, the tooling. But then you have individuals doing this stuff, teams driving that forward, meeting it in the middle. That's one good sandwich, right? A top slice of bread, a bottom slice of bread, and some real nice meat here provided by the team leaders. So I'm Dave Pultorak. I hope you can download this job aid. I can tell you it's my #1 recommendation with regard to ITIL implementation, getting real behaviors changed in real organizations to use this job aid. You can download it at www.pultorak.com under free downloads. Have a great day.